We continue to tear apart this 249J. I've got a series of bolts all around the case. These two top ones here and here are going to be like this 12.10 mil that goes in there, and then the rest should be this 15 mil head here that go around. So you'll remove all of those, and then on the back side here, this is for the linkage and stuff. That's a 9/16 nut. That's basically your lever that's selecting what range you're in. So you'll remove that. I do believe if I throw the nut back on there, this is still going to pull off of there, no problems. We've already removed our yoke. That was 1 1/8. We removed the sensor here, which is also 1 1/8 if you're going to use a deep socket or wrench or a large crescent wrench. So we've got all that apart. Here we have our 10 mil bolts. There's 4 of them that go on here. The way that I like to do it is I just get myself a punch, and I'm going to go off of these spots here. There's 1, 2, 3. So I've got my aluminum drift here, and I just crack on that until it breaks free, and then you can spin it. Once it spins, you should be able to pull it off easy. And then we have a snap ring in here that's going to need to be removed. Now this one right there, it's not like the cool style snap ring that comes off real easy. Either you got to have the fancy snap ring tool to get that off, or a pair of screwdrivers, or use other means. Once we get that off, we should be able to split the case here. Starting off with the tail shaft housing here, we want to come in with the T25 Torx, and we're going to remove these 2 bolts here, and we're going to remove our access cover. And also too, we're going to have 4 13 mil bolts holding the cover down here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And once we've removed that cover, there is a snap ring in here, and I don't know if you can see that, but basically you got to get in there and you got to remove that snap ring out of that groove from the bearing. Once you've done that, then you're able to basically pop this off. It's not going to go easy. Some means of prying it from the ears here, 1, 2, and 3. Find some way to pry on those 3 locations, and keep working at it till you get it off. You might want to go around it with a torch and warm it up and loosen up that RTV sealant. And once you've accomplished that, you should be able to pull that off of there. Inside you can see where that snap ring is inside the housing, and then also too it goes into the groove on the bearing there. Next we have this speedo gear that just pulls off of there. Now we got another snap ring. We'll remove that. We'll be able to remove the bearing. Then we can remove the pump and the piping, and this will come off. And then we can get at our, I think it's called the Vitalic coupler. Once we've removed that snap ring that holds the bearing on, now we can remove the bearing. We give her a spin. It's nice and quiet. That's a good bearing. There's nothing wrong with that. We can reuse it. So we slide the bearing off. Next, we can slide the take the hose off of here for the pump, and we can remove the pump off of the shaft there. And now again, we've got a series of lock rings here, and then that is what's holding our Vitalic coupler in here. After removing these 2 lock rings here on the shaft, then we can slide off the Vitalic coupler. Once the Vitalic coupler is removed, then you should be able to pull the top portion of the housing off fairly easily. Once we got that cover pulled off of here, we can see that we've got the same design and the same size chain as basically what came out of that 241D. Both of these chains should measure out at about 1 3/8 in width. As far as the length, right now I don't know if they're the same length, but you know, I would assume they should be. I don't see why they would not be the same length, but we don't know that yet. So now we can continue disassembling this, and these looks like this gear here is attached to the shaft, whereas on the 241 over there, those sprockets just came off both shafts. So this one here is attached. This has to be removed with the chain, and then on this one here, we might be able to remove this locking ring here, and then this gear will pull up off of the shaft here. We've removed both the gears and the chain out of the transfer case there, and now after we've removed those gears and chain, we're at this state here. This shaft will pull right out. Once you've pulled that shaft out of there, this can be disengaged from here, that pin that goes into the pin. There's a pin that goes into that slot. You can disengage that, and then this whole thing should be able to pull out of there. And this is what we're left with after we've pulled that out. I don't believe we need to remove this. We want to get at that Planetary. Right off the bat, I noticed that our bolts on our new Planetary are going to interfere with that shift fork there. Here we got our two Planetaries side by side, and this is the one that we turned into a 6-pinion Planetary, and then we've got the original stock 3-pinion on this one here. So the first thing I did was I measured our input shaft here, and when we do a comparison, this one is longer. If you can see that. So this one here is longer, but that's not a big deal because we should be able to switch those input shafts no problem. But the problem is that on this one here, when I use these bolts to bolt everything together, that's going to interfere with this one here. As you can see, when the fork is engaged into the shaft and this shaft is engaged into the Planetary gear set, this is our clearance here. So our bolts are sticking up, and that's just not going to work. So either we have to tack weld these pins in place and eliminate these bolts to make it work, or if we can't achieve that, then it's just not going to work out. I would have to rebuild the pins again, and I would have to heat treat the center, and I'd have to leave the ends soft, just like the factory ones are, so that I could stamp them like we got here. So basically that's what they've done, is the ends of the pin on both ends aren't hardened as the center is for the needles to run on, and then that's why they were able to stamp that and then give that interference fit on either end to hold the pin in place. They would not be able to do that if those ends were hardened. So we got some more thinking to do here on what we're going to do next to try and achieve this 6-pinion Planetary setup.